Hi, I'm Marc Childs from Davidson. Welcome to our video series on FMCG issues. Each year, we run a series of deep dive research projects on important chosen topics in association with the FMCG Institute. We recently ran one of these on the subject of revenue growth management, or net revenue management as some call it. We were lucky enough to have EY, formerly known as Ernst & Young, as subject matter experts contributing to those discussions. I thought this would be an interesting topic to cover because most large and medium-sized manufacturers are facing similar challenges as they set out on this journey. Difficult to get growth, both top and bottom line, and as a result a lot of pressure from activist shareholders. Intensified competition, not just from other manufacturers, although certainly we hear talk of local agile manufacturers starting to take a bite out of market share in many markets, but also the struggle to adapt to a complex digital environment that many manufacturers are yet to come to terms with. So I thought in this video I would just touch on what the scope is. In other words, what do we mean by revenue growth management? Where some companies have been getting started, and also what are likely to be the barriers to success in this venture. It's funny, when I think about the scope of revenue growth management, I end up describing what is normal business management, and I ask myself, so what's so different about this? Well, let's look at the elements. It starts with sound category strategy that makes sure that the brand strategy you're offering into the marketplace is focused appropriately on where the opportunities are. But it then flows on to pack price architecture. Now, we already know that Coca-Cola has a good reputation for doing this, for balancing pack forms and pricing across all their different forms of point of purchase with their shoppers. And many companies are not so good at that. So pack price architecture certainly has got to be on the agenda. The other is ranging and distribution channel strategy. Again, taking a leaf out of the Coca-Cola book, making sure that you've got the right products at the right price in the right outlets. Then we move on to price portfolio strategy, which is balancing the pricing, and that means the whole pricing model, right across the product range and across the channels and customers. And then finally looking at trading strategy and promotional strategy to make sure you're optimizing all of that. So as I say, it sounds like normal business management. The reason it's not business as usual is because it requires a couple of very different things. The critical issue here is end-to-end integration, which most companies struggle with, at least to some degree. The other is to manage resources and strategy out of one bucket. That means being prepared to challenge old silos and be tailoring your strategy to the revenue opportunities in the market. The other is a much more granular understanding of where the profit is being generated in your business. And that means using data much more effectively than we've been able to in the past. When you bring all of these things together, and when you say that there's a requirement for an integrated business plan, all the way from S&OP planning through to customer planning, through to strategic planning overall in the business, this is something that's quite new in its totality. I want to emphasize some of these points because they're very important. A more granular view of the business means, first of all, understanding where your cost structures are in a much more accurate way, and therefore understanding where the profit opportunities are in your business, but also an external view using data much more effectively to see where those opportunities are as well. And many say that this is going to require artificial intelligence to be able to handle and bring together all of these data sources that are now available. The other very important point I want to make is that there's a kind of conundrum in business that on the one hand you want individuals and departments to be accountable for the things that they're responsible for. But at the same time, that creates silos that are the enemy of revenue growth management, because you need to be in a position where you're able to challenge existing silos and existing norms and spend your resources in a different way appropriate to each of those granular opportunities that we should be identifying. The other is that we need one integrated business plan. Now, we've reviewed businesses on a number of occasions in the past, looking at the question of whether they have one number in their business or whether there are multiple numbers, whether there's truth in their budgeting or whether the budget is disconnected from the accountability that's been set by, world headquarters or the board or whatever. Those kinds of things work against having one consistent consensus business plan where sensible choices are being made about resource allocation across channels, across customers, across categories. I'm sure that those who are working inside FMCG manufacturers can think of many situations where functional silos or rules are restraining how you can make choices in new situations. One of my clients gave me a very good example where he took resources from one account director because there were better opportunities to invest those funds in another account. And of course the account director is saying, why are you taking away my budget? How am I going to deliver my results? And of course the answer is, it's not your budget, and we should be prepared to challenge where those funds are and allow them to chase the opportunities that we've identified. Another that I commonly hear for multinational organizations is that an international function is setting rules such as X% of money spent on advertising. And if it's not spent on advertising, maybe it's not going to be there next year. Well, in some circumstances, we need to be able to say the advertising budget is not the way to activate this particular granular piece of business. It may be that we want to do something else. Now, of course, you've got to have checks and balances. You don't want to be putting all the money into short-term gains and losing in the long term. So I don't want people to jump on me about this advertising issue. Of course, there's that consideration. But the point about breaking down silos and being more granular is to be able to challenge those things and assess them in the context of what we're trying to achieve here, which is to achieve better top and bottom line growth. So clearly what I've outlined to you represents big challenges in the road ahead for revenue growth management. EY tell us that in their experience, it's necessary to appoint a senior leader and to call out revenue growth management as a specific program across the company. Many have done both those things. Having taken the initial steps of appointing someone as a leader who presumably has strong commercial credentials, and also having identified and called out the program of revenue growth management, it really is necessary to start relatively small. Don't try to do the whole waterfront at once. Make sure that you choose low-hanging fruit in a channel or a customer or a country and build some experience, build some success that will fund your way towards supporting a more comprehensive roadmap moving forward. There's a view that this has a relatively short life cycle. Maybe there's an opportunity in this for 2 or 3 years before the process of revenue growth management gets put back into the functions that are accountable for running the day-to-day business. One final sidebar, many small and medium organizations may not have the resources to appoint someone at director level to lead a program like this. Several of them have told me they've had quite reasonable success appointing someone like a customer marketing person or a finance person to play this role. Ideally, that person needs to have access to the highest level in that organization unit in order to be able to flex some muscle or at least exercise some serious influence over breaking down the silos that I've been talking about. I wish you well with your program. If you'd like to know more, there will be a white paper on this available to our FMCG Institute members shortly, and to non-members, it's available for purchase on our website. Thank you for watching.